Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are really challenging one of the most stubborn ideas out there.
Hmm.
The myth of the naturally born expert. We've all sort of been told that mastery is a genetic lottery, that some people are just gifted.
Well, it's a very convenient myth, isn't it? Because if you're struggling, it gives you this perfect excuse for your own stagnation.
Right.
But the sources we have today just completely dismantle that idea. The core premise they lay out is actually meant to be empowering.
Right.
It's that an expert is not born, they are created.
Created. Okay, so let's unpack that. If expertise isn't a birthright, then we have to ask, where does it actually come from? And the sources make us ask some pretty tough questions.
I do.
Like, why do people sometimes put in 10 times the effort but get, well, zero competence out of it?
That's the paradox of effort, and it goes deeper. Why do we see people who start out totally average and then suddenly they just accelerate past everyone?
Yeah, and this one hurts a little. Why is 1 hour of the right work so much more powerful than 10 hours of the wrong work? It just feels so inefficient.
It is staggering.
And I think it all boils down to this one fundamental thing. We know what's right. We read the books, we get the advice, but we consistently fail to do it. Why is there that huge gap between what we intend to do and what we actually do?
That gap. That is the mission of this deep dive. We are going to go beyond just surface level motivation and get into the real mechanics of expertise.
And what are those mechanics?
The sources point to three key things: habits, the science of psychological momentum, and this is the big one, how your unconscious brain is actually running the show.
Okay, let's start with momentum because I feel like that's where most people fall off. The sources say failure isn't really about a lack of talent. You could do the work.
Right.
It's the loss of momentum. The engine just stalls.
Exactly. And the sources point to specific research on this, a study by Seppo Aisoahola and Charles Dodson. They were looking at how psychological drive is created. What's the most efficient way to keep moving forward?
And their key finding is where all the conventional advice just falls apart, We celebrate these heroic, huge actions.
The big gestures, the all-nighters.
The all-day writing session, the massive gym blitz, exactly.
But the research found those big sporadic actions are they're deeply inefficient. Get this, their key finding was that a small, repeatable action done every single day creates a state of psychological momentum that is 10 times stronger than one big action done just once a week.
Whoa, hang on. 10 times.
10 times.
I have to challenge that a little. Is that just hyperbole, or is there a real psychological mechanism that creates that multiplier?
No, it's real. And it's not about the physical output. It's about mental certainty. That big one-off action requires a ton of willpower and motivation, right?
Right, which you don't always have.
And those are finite resources. But when you do something small every day, you completely eliminate the decision. You build this chain of success that's almost unbreakable. You're proving to your brain over and over that you're a person who follows through.
Ah, so that consistency reduces the internal friction.
Exactly. And that frictionless state is what creates that 10x psychological drive.
That makes so much sense. We're always waiting for that perfect Saturday to dedicate 8 hours to something, and then when it comes, we're too tired or overwhelmed, we just punt it.
That's waiting for inspiration. And the sources are so clear about this. Successful people, whether they're in sales or sports or are CEOs, they aren't defined by the one great thing they did last quarter.
No.
They're defined by the small, correct things they did this morning.
So momentum isn't the prize you get at the end, it's the prerequisite. It's the force that shifts you from wanting to quit to, well, actually wanting to continue. It fuels itself.
And that's why they simplify everything. They bypass the big, paralyzing goal of, say, write a book.
Right, which is terrifying.
And instead, they just focus on instant execution. So the question they ask themselves isn't about time or effort. It's simply, what is the smallest action I can take today? And can I do it now?
And doing it now, no matter how tiny, that's the trigger for the momentum.
That's the trigger. Which brings us to the next, much deeper point. Why do we need these little tricks? Why do we have to fool ourselves into doing the right thing?
Wow.
The answer is in the brain's hidden command center.
This is where things get really interesting, because the sources demand we just completely change how we see ourselves. We think we're driven by our conscious will.
And we could not be more wrong. The research here delivers probably the most disruptive fact in this entire deep dive.
Okay.
Only a tiny fraction of our mental activity is under conscious control. Just think about that. Only 3% of our thoughts are conscious.
3%? That's That is shockingly small.
It is.
So if only 3% is the conscious driver, that means the other 97% of our thought is just running on automatic. The ingrained habits, the patterns, the stuff we do without thinking.
And that is the answer to the paradox you mentioned earlier. We don't act according to what our 3% conscious brain knows. We act according to what the massive 97% unconscious brain is just used to doing.
Okay, so let me see if I can use an analogy here. It's like my conscious self is, I don't know, the person sitting in the driver's seat of a giant 18-wheeler truck.
Okay, I like this.
And that truck is my unconscious brain. I know exactly where I want to go, the new, healthy destination. But the truck itself is programmed, wired to only follow the old route it's taken for 20 years.
That is a perfect way to frame it. The truck, the 97%, has all the momentum. The driver, your 3%, just has intentions. Willpower is just the driver yelling at the truck to take a new turn.
And the truck usually wins.
Inevitably. Your deeply embedded habits are just stronger than your current knowledge.
That's a huge realization. It means we can stop blaming ourselves for a lack of motivation. We're just fighting this overwhelming neurological force.
We are. And the sources mention that this wiring isn't even the same for everyone. Some people default to being more analytical, some more practical, others more relational or creative.
But the 973 split is universal.
It's universal. So change can't just be intellectual. You can't just read a book and expect the system to update. You have to actually reprogram the route.
So if the unconscious mind is driving 97% of everything, how do we, the 3% driver, actually take back control? What's in the expert's toolkit for that?
They recommend two main methods. First, the strategic use of rituals. And second, the implementation of MITs, or most important things.
Let's define those. A ritual. That sounds big, but here it's defined as something really small, right? An automatic action.
Exactly. It's a tiny, new, non-negotiable routine. For example, if you want to write more, your ritual might be, when the coffee's done brewing, that's the trigger, I immediately write one sentence.
Zero friction. Zero decision.
You're outsourcing the decision to the routine.
And the MITs, how do they fit in?
MITs are about setting just 3, not 10, not 20, just 3 absolutely critical tasks for the week. This is where your 3% conscious brain gets to use its limited focused energy. You strategically pick the 3 things that will give you the most progress.
I see. So the mechanism is, when you define the MITs, you're using the conscious brain to command the unconscious brain. You're setting the destination for the truck.
You're setting the new GPS, and by repeating the rituals, those small automatic actions, you're forcing the 97% truck to actually follow that new small route every single day.
So the unconscious brain starts serving the new goals. The automatic pilot learns a better route.
Until the new behavior just becomes the new default.
That reframes the whole idea of what an expert is. It's not about magical talent. It's about internal management. So what's the ultimate definition of an expert based on all this?
It's so empowering because it just takes talent out of the equation. An expert isn't the person with the most knowledge. An expert is someone who has trained their habits to be stronger than their emotions and who keeps momentum longer than their fear. It's about duration and process, not genius.
Okay, so it all comes down to consistency and the small things. The sources actually distill this into a pretty clear 5-step formula. Let's walk through that.
This is the checklist for reprogramming that 97% brain. Step 1 is the one everyone skips. You have to start by asking, why must I improve?
And it can't be vague.
It has to be a deep emotional reason, your anchor. If the why is weak, the 97% truck will just laugh at your new instructions.
That makes sense. The 97% needs an emotional hook, which leads to step 2.
Step 2, write down the 7 most important people who need you to develop. Your improvement isn't just for you, it's a relational duty. When you see who relies on you, it gives you leverage against that urge to quit.
We've established big actions are momentum killers, so step 3 has to be about the small stuff.
Correct. Step 3, create 3 actions you can do immediately, not tomorrow, today. You have to generate that initial momentum right now.
Even tiny things, like deleting a distraction app.
Exactly. Then you move to long-term programming. Step 4 is about the new default.
Which is the ritual.
Step 4, choose one daily ritual, just one, a simple, small thing you do automatically every single day to start overriding the old programming. When I put my cup down, I pick the book up.
And finally, step 5 is about keeping the 3% driver in charge of the new route.
Right. Step 5, set a fixed schedule for self-evaluation. You have to consciously check in maybe every Sunday night. Did I follow the rituals? Did I do the MITs?
So you don't just drift back to the old default path.
That structured check-in is what creates the duration. It's what maintains the new direction.
That formula really does turn it into a practical system. Stop waiting for a moment of genius and start managing your habits.
Absolutely. The whole synthesis here is that an expert isn't the person who knows the most. It's the person who knows how to maintain the right things longer than anyone else.
It's a test of patience.
Patience, discipline, and sustained momentum in the small things. The moment you quit, the 97% wins.
So the power of consistency in the small things, not the big breakthrough, is the secret hiding in plain sight. We've come full circle. Experts are created, one tiny repeated action at a time.
And, if you connect this to the bigger picture of your life, the urgency becomes really clear. Don't wait until the universe forces you to change. Don't wait for a diagnosis or a financial crisis or some other failure to finally compel you.
That's the proactive mastery the source material is calling for. It's the core idea to really think about as you start your own small ritual today.
Don't wait until life forces you to change. Choose to change before you are compelled to change. Start small, start now, and begin creating that momentum.